now consider these my home waters because I live here. I've fished here for a long time, and I really love it here. West Slope cutthroat, probably by far one of my favorite fish to catch on a fly rod. They're very apt to come and hit a dry fly. They do get some decent size to them, and they're just fighters, man. They're tough fish.
Hey OSP fans, on this episode of the show, we venture slightly out of the valley to Kooskia, Idaho, home of nature's spirit, and today's guest, Thomas Lamphere. Thomas is a fly angler, a former commercial tyer, and the proud new owner of Nature's Spirit. At a young age, Thomas has already made a name for himself in a number of ways in fly angling. Listen in as we talk all things fly tying, fishing, and get to hear a background on the amazing company that is Nature's Spirit. Here's the show. Welcome to the show. We are here today with our guest, Thomas Lamphere. How you doing, Thomas?
Not too bad. How about yourself, Drew?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Brian?
Oh, never better.
Right on. Today we are going to talk all things fly fishing and fly tying. Thomas, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Well, I pretty much play with feathers and sparkly stuff for a living. It's not a joke. In October 1st, I took over ownership of a company called Nature's Spirit. We manufacture and wholesale fly tying material worldwide. We're based out of Kooskia, Idaho. We are known for having the best hand-select duck feathers, select deer, elk, and moose hair, strung feather products such as marabou, schlappen, saddle hackle. And we also distribute for a lot of major companies like Whiting Farms, Hannock, Phasna, Sibai, Hens, Solarez. I mean, in total, we distribute for 38 different companies, and we just brought in a couple more called Perdigon Mania and South Fork Products.
Cool. Yeah, and I can't wait to dive into some more of the techie stuff and more intricate aspects of some of the product lines you guys carry.
Dude, it's nuts how much stuff we have in that little place.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
sure.
This is going to be a perfect episode, too, because Drew, obviously fly shop manager, fly fisherman. Me, haven't been fly fishing yet. And
that'll
then
change.
It will change. This summer should be pretty fun.
You're about to get obsessed, Brian.
I'm obsessed with too many things already.
This is going to replace all those things.
Just
It won't.
For the love of God, don't hook him into big fish first because he'll be screwed.
Yeah,
That's right.
Start him small.
Between the podcasting and the beer making and the
Music?
and the music.
If you thought that
Kids.
was expensive, just wait.
I know, it's already too expensive. No, it's good to go because I'm sure we have fly fishing listeners, and I'm sure we've had listeners that also have either little experience or no experience. So Drew will ask
out
all the
to Ted
technical
K.
questions, and I will ask all the very stupid questions.
That's okay.
Good.
I'll have answers for as much as I possibly can. Whether I don't or do, I'll make
All
something
right,
up. If
give
I don't,
explicit directions to your favorite fishing spot.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. you have this great, lake-like river down here called the Snake that works great for bass.
Yeah, and what you want to do when you're going to my favorite fishing spots is take your car and submerge it all the way in the water down to the very
Make
bottom.
sure your seatbelt's buckled.
just
and
don't
stay in there.
Yeah, and just don't look on the ground for booby traps, high explosives, spikes, and nails, and you'll be fine.
All right.
All right, we got that out of the way.
So, can you give us a little bit of background about Nature's Spirit and how you got involved with that? How did you come to purchase that company? Because you're a young guy. I mean, you're 30. You said.
Yeah,
right?
I turned 31 in a week.
Yep.
So it's Nature's Spirit started as I think it was Mission Mountain Hare. It was owned by Joel and Julie Weimer. They bought Nature's Spirit from a guy out of Seattle, and they moved it to Kooskia, Idaho. They were originally in Montana. And I was working for a company called Fish Hunter Enterprises. For those that know on the West Coast, that do a lot of steelheading, or big into marabou and that kind of stuff, that's kind of where I got my base. I started working there when I was 23, and that was 2013. And then in March of 2018, Joel and Julie purchased Fish Hunter, took it over, and hired me and moved me from Seattle, Washington out to Kooskia, Idaho, which I was more than elated to go because I've been fishing here for 10 years. Can come out every fall for steelhead. So
Right.
I was doing that, working at Fish Hunter. They offered me the job as their general manager, and I came on over, and about 6 months later, I got an evaluation from them, and it was more so a, hey, we want to sell you our company. And of course, my mind went, and we've just been pushing to grow as much as we can and keep things going and bring it up. And so the past few years, it's been building up the website, building social media presence, gaining more customers, bringing in new products, doing a lot of promotion, showcasing things. Haven't been doing it a lot lately, but usually on the second and fourth Thursdays of each month, I do a live on the fly tying session. It's on Instagram and YouTube. Going to start doing that again coming up in February. And then we'll start doing our fly of the month, tutorials on YouTube and stuff and get things going. But after that, it was really just let's kind of take this and see where we can go with it. And then when they, brought the opportunity for me to buy it, it was 2 years of a lot of work, and then it finally happened, and now we're just screaming busier than we could possibly imagine, to the point I'm actually hiring more people as we go along. I've got 2 new hires that just started.
Awesome.
So we can try to keep up with production, because we're blowing through that much product.
Cool. So you mentioned it. How big is the team there? How many people do you have out there?
Including myself with the 2 new hires, we are now at 12.
Okay. So it's still a pretty small crew.
It's a pretty small crew for as much as we pump out, and that's kind of the nice thing about the kind of business we're in. It's on manufacturing and distribution, though we do manufacture a bit of our stuff, and we need the crew to produce it. A lot of it's just bringing it in, putting it on the shelf, taking it off the shelf, and sending it out the door.
Right.
That's the main thing with distribution.
All right. First stupid question. What is marabou?
So, marabou is a really fluffy feather that comes off a turkey.
Oh, gobble.
Chickens have it too. It's called chickaboo. But main source of marabou that you'll find anywhere comes off a domestic turkey. And they're usually out of farms in Asia. Most any strung feather product, that's where it's going to come from.
Is that where you get yours as well?
Yeah.
And on that note, and on the Fish Hunter note, I do have an affinity for Fish Hunter anything.
Yeah.
As you mentioned. So when that came over to Nature's Spirit, what was it that stayed? Is it just those dyes or the process?
So
do you guys process that in house?
We do. We buy it by the hundreds of pounds at a time.
Okay.
And then my dad, who now works for me, which is still kind of weird. It's weird having your authority figure that, hey, I respect you because you're my dad and you're my authority figure, but I'm your boss. And then he just, give me the twisted eye. Yeah, right. No, my dad does so he is my production manager. He takes care of all of the dyeing and all that stuff. So when Fish Hunter came over, he came in to take over all of the dyeing for Joel. We have in marabou somewhere around 80 colors.
Oh, yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
We've 80 colors of marabou.
We've got a lot just in our shop from you guys.
Yeah, and then you should come up and check it out and see how many more colors you don't have.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to be like, I need that and that and that and this, and these would go really good together, and it just becomes a smorgasbord of madness. So my dad does all the dyeing, and so we get it to where everything comes in white. And when you're looking at 80 colors, that's a lot of time invested. That's a lot of recipes, a lot of things to move on. Fish Hunter was really known for the color selection and quality. Mm-hmm. So we kept that going because the name meant something.
Right.
And I still have the original sign of wood, Fish Hunter Enterprise, in my office on the wall where I started.
That's awesome.
So I literally climbed up a ladder, drilled the screws out, took the board with me to Idaho. So
that's cool.
So there's quite a bit of a process that goes into it, but everything comes white and we dye everything.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So how do you have enough space to do those 80 colors? Do you guys kind of just do a batch at a time and then clean everything out and put in a different color?
Pretty much. We have quite a few boiling pans. They're 3 to 5 gallon. Everything is done stovetop.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So you're using a lot of acid style dyes, water base. So it comes in a powder form. You measure it out, put it in your water. You bring it to a boiling point, and you add water to bring your temp down, put your feathers in. It's really touchy on temps. You can boil marabou, it'll be fine. You put saddle huckle above 150 degrees, you're going to singe all your ends.
Yep.
It's completely worthless. I know, because I have a couple batches of it at home. So your temperature is sensitive on some feathers, but pretty much you're going to boil your dye to turn it into a water base. You add your product after you've cooled the water down. You get it good and sitting for a while at a certain temp, get it simmering, and then most acid-based dyes is determine some kind of acid base. You can use vinegar depending on the dye. You can use sulfuric acids or whatever harsh acid. What that does is that forces the dye into the feather or the hair and closes the pore. And that's what sets it. And then you rinse off the excess and let it dry.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. And, it's always interesting, too, because some feathers, are different when you put them in the water. In terms of like how much comes off, how much doesn't. Like some brands you'll see, like you put like in those Flyman float tanks, for example, you see guys throw in like a spay fly of some
and your
kind.
water turns pink or blue, and you're just like, what the heck?
Yep.
Generally what happens there is it didn't get rinsed off enough, or it wasn't brought to enough of a boiling point to soak that dye into it.
Right.
Some colors, people will just throw dye into a pan until it goes, and it takes forever to rinse out because you put too much dye in it. Generally, how we do it is we have everything done strict by recipe. It's under lock and key and armament in the back, and no one's getting in there and getting it. So don't even try. So it's all done by specific recipes, just like a baker does for baking cakes.
Sure.
If one thing's off, the cake goes away. The same thing happens with dyeing.
Like a brewer does when he's making
when
beer.
a brewer does, and puts the wrong type of hop in, or
wrong temperature. It'll make it. Yeah, it ruins it.
And
yeah, and again, I mean, that's why so many people love and seek out fish hunters specifically, because it's always super nice.
Yeah, and we wash it as much as possible so it doesn't bleed.
Right.
Though there's colors that, like purple, it's just gonna bleed. It's purple.
Yep.
It takes so much dye to force that thing to go, and then
Yep.
I feel bad for the people that have to cut it up like I used to, and you walk out and I have rainbow fingers, and, and that's what you go with.
Yep. Yep, or even just sitting down and whipping out a bunch of flies, your fingers are going to get purple every once in a while.
And just don't lick your fingers, man. Don't do it.
It's probably tempting. Ooh.
Well, you kind of sit there and go, I need some moisture, and then you lick your finger and wipe the fly off, and I look at how those feathers come in. I'm like, for the love of God, don't do it.
Yeah.
Just don't lick your fingers.
Oh, God. Yeah, because it's coming straight from the farm, and
it's coming straight from the farm, and some things do not get washed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stole from Kelly Gallup. He had a little tip where he takes like one of those plastic fly containers that you'd get from any shop, cuts out a sponge, dampens it, and then he just runs the material over that. But you still
That's exactly what I do.
You still see him in his videos take a whole feather and run it through
his mouth. And
Yeah, I have chickens, and I had an obnoxious rooster, so I gave Drew some feathers, and I'm like, I just rinsed them in water.
Like, just don't lick them.
Yeah, exactly.
I just rinsed them off. They're still gross.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you talked about how busy you are. And I know for us, in some ways, at my shop, COVID has actually benefited our business. Has that been the case for you guys?
Yeah, exactly. Because with us, everybody has stayed home. Mm-hmm. So what's everybody doing? They're doing their hobbies. Right. Hobby jobs are what's taken off. And we've done a lot to help shops as far as, hey, if you don't have a website going, we have all the info on our site. Just grab it, get your website going. Make sure you're putting things out there and whatnot, and because it's been insane. Last year, like, we're known for our deer hair, our deer and our elk. Sorry, Zach, I know you're going to hate me for saying this because you cut it all up and you told me not to anyways, but I'm the boss. So our compare done hair. We're known worldwide for our compare done hair. For those that don't know what a compare done is.
That's me.
Yeah. It's a very small, simple fly. It's got a deer hair tail, a dubbing body, and a deer hair half-moon wing. And if the hair is not perfect for it, the fly doesn't work. Generally, compared on hair, how it's graded, it's very compressible, which means when you squeeze it, it flares, and it's got really short tips. The reason you want the short tips is because a lot of compare duns are tied between 16 and 22.
Teensy tiny,
tiny
tiny
bugs.
flies.
But don't let me tell you that a size 12 in mahogany works just fine. So, because I'd heard it somewhere, and I don't have 24 of them in my box. It's okay. But it's the same thing. Like, we have a grading period where we have Excadus, compare dun. They're very popular hairs. We blew through a year's worth in 7 months. Mm-hmm. And to the point where we ran out of almost all of our hair.
Right.
So after taking over, my brother and I, we go on a trip to go collect all of our hair, and we increased our collection by about 30%.
And where are you getting this hair?
That I will not tell you.
Gotcha. All right.
But I'll tell you the process. So we actually go collect our hides, and we're not running around to tanneries and sorting that. We're going and we're getting hides that are like, yeah, I killed it this morning.
Oh, nice.
So we're going and getting all hunted animals. We're over there in scraping away during hunting season. We're going through hides. We're grading the hair as we get it in, lightning speed. And we're taking them, and then we trim them to what we're going to use. We literally scrape all the flesh off. It's nasty.
Well, it sounds like a lot of work,
we go through
too.
a lot of salt because we sit there and scrape them, salt them, let them salt for a couple days, drive them to our tannery that we work with, and then we start getting them back in big shipments, and then we go through the process of grading it further, cutting it up. And
I have a lot of respect for that process because I've tried to do it before and it didn't turn out very good.
yeah, I got myself this year to the point where I could deflesh an elk in about 12 minutes.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, for us, it's just been from certain vendors' availability on things because we sell through it so fast, like you were saying. We just don't have the product to fill back onto the shelves.
Yeah, and we've been seeing some of that too. It's not just you guys. I mean, that's an industry-wide thing.
Sure.
I mean, like
Absolutely.
I said, we deal with 38 vendors. That's not all the vendors we deal with. That's just the people whose product we sell.
Right.
So, like Whiting Farms is a vendor that we distribute for. Hens, Hannock, Hedge on Flashaboo, Wapsie, UTC, Uni, Lagarten, Solares. Those are all vendors that we distribute for. That doesn't include all of our raw product vendors. People where we get squirrel skins from, rabbit, different dubbing products, synthetics. And so you're looking at probably 75% more vendors on top of that. Mm-hmm. So I'm dealing with 60 plus different companies to get product in. Everybody's having issues. It's a industry-wide thing, and not just our industry.
Totally.
It's in every industry.
Yep.
Any industry you manufacture goods of any kind. Even, I mean, we saw it with the toilet paper and the paper towels. It's just an industry thing.
Look at the mail. I mean, the mail's backed up in and of
Bullets.
itself.
Bullets. Yeah, that's a big one. I'm a competition shooter on the side. I do all my own reloading.
Getting reloading material.
And bullets has been very interesting. I was in North 40 today, and you guys had 9mm. I got my 2-box limit.
Oh, no way. Are they still there?
I doubt it.
Go.
Yeah, dude,
I'm just going to have you look for me every
There was
day.
like 40 boxes. I grabbed my 2. I went around the corner, came back, and there was like 8. I was just
Well, because when that stuff lands, I mean, they're already
There's people that
basically
know.
handing it to somebody as they're putting it out. But then also, hey, dude, I'm on the phone right now with my cousin and my brother and my aunt, my uncle, and they're calling.
Send them all down,
Yeah, and then you got people that try to buy up as much as they can, and then they just turn around and sell it, and that pisses me
That's
off to
annoying.
no end.
That is so annoying.
It really is.
I mean, even 12 gauge has been hard.
Totally. There was a time when we didn't have a box of anything on the shelf there for a while.
Yeah. That was Sportsman's last week. I went in to get my brother's late Christmas present, and I just for fun walked through, and there was a few boxes of the most obscure ammunition, and that was about it.
Yeah.
Which is like your 44 long Colt, your 38 short, your just weird rounds, and your 9x18.
And
Russian,
even then, there were only a couple boxes left.
Yeah,
so
it's not just fly fishing and fly tying. It's ammo, it's food, it's cars, it's paint, it's puzzles, it's anything that gets produced is slow.
Yep.
Right.
And
Well, speaking of which, you're working with all these different vendors. I'm sure you've obviously got some new stuff for 2021.
Oh, yeah.
Is there
Yeah.
anything in particular that you're super excited about?
Well, we have one we put out to our vendors or to our dealers already from South Fork Products. It is a magnetic fly holder. It's a detachable magnet to a steel plate. It's coated with a silicone rubber base. It's cupped, so you get a couple different uses to it. I've used them on the river, bouncing up and down rocks. I've taken them, thrown them across the room with flies on them just to see how they'll hold up. Man, I haven't had a single fly fall off these things. And They're good. They're like strong industry magnets. Where like if you're not careful, they'll pinch your skin off.
Oh, right,
strong.
yeah.
Dude, they're nasty. But they're cool because they're magnets. It's science.
Well, it's kind of just cooler than a fly patch.
Yeah, and it's nicer than a fly patch because the fly patches wear out. Magnets don't. Everyone I know freaks out. Oh, you're magnetizing your hooks. It doesn't matter. I've never had a fish that turned away from a fly because it was magnetized.
Right. There's a lot of funny superstitions. I guess not superstitions, but
Misconceptions.
And like weird circular logic with, well, this won't work because of this or that.
Or it's like, hey, there's a green drake hatch going, and I've got the perfect green drake pattern, but they're not eating it because I'm wearing pink socks instead of green socks. You know,
Yep.
it's that kind of thing.
Honey, where are my green socks?
They're in the laundry, honey. You didn't wear them last week. You know, so it's kind of one of those things where it comes in a couple different styles. It comes in this little disc with a steel back, and then it's got that's the solo. Then the duo is twice the size, but it's got magnetic plates on both sides.
Cool.
And you can remove them from the steel plate. The reason that's a benefit, you can put the steel plate on the inside of your shirt, put the magnet on the outside, and it will stay there. You can do it to your hat. You can do it to your pack. And you've just got a little patch right there. I've done it and used it where I'm, going into some water where I'm Euro nymphing and I'm going deeper than what my waist pack wants me to. So I'll stick that to the outside of my waders, put a couple flies on it. I know I'm going to fish in that run, fish the run, go back to my truck, pick up my pack, and I've got all 5 flies I took with me there.
Yep.
We also worked with them to take the duo and the solo and put a silicone pad on the back of it so that you can put them on the table, and fly tyers can use them as a magnet to put their hooks and beads on.
So cool.
The beads aren't really magnetic, but it's got a lip on it so you can pour your beads in it, and then they're not going to fall out. But the benefit of having now I'm going to say this as a fly tyer with experience in the matter, I'd rather have a magnetized fly than a doctor's bill from pulling a barbed hook out of my toe.
I've had that, yeah.
Or your dog.
thumb.
Or the thumb, that's just going to happen when you're fishing in general.
Yeah.
But there's nothing worse than looking and going, I've got a 2-aught bass hook in my foot.
Yeah.
Or you've got a 22 and it's past the barb and it's not coming out. And you try to rip it out and you're like, this sucks.
Yep.
So I've always kept magnets on my desk. I like these because they're portable. I can throw them in my tying bag. I host a fly tying event over at a tap room over in Kamei called Beer 30. And we'll put a couple of those on the table now, and people can just put their hooks on them. We don't have to worry about hooks falling on the floor, that kind of thing. And it's kind of nice. They're not on our website yet, but you can go to southforkproducts.com, check out all their products. You can order from direct. You can also go to a fly shop and request them. They're just really cool. The fly tire ones are a Nature Spirit exclusive. So if you want to get one of those ones, you do have to go to a Nature Spirit dealer to ask for them.
Which happens to be North 40 Fly Shop right here in Lewiston, Idaho.
So we heard about the you getting groomed and taking over the company, but where did you learn how to fly fish in the beginning? And let's go way back.
To ask about that.
Oh, you're going ancient here, even though at the age of 30. So my dad started me at fly tying and fly fishing when I was 6. I started pretty young. So I grew up with a fly rod in my hand and a vise on my homework desk. And that was my main thing I loved to do, was to go fish. And to the point where my mom would ground me from going fishing if I didn't have my homework done. That actually happened.
Good motivation.
Yeah, good motivation. Get your homework done. Okay, I want to tie flies now. You only finished half of it. I know, but I need to tie this woolly bugger because it looks really cool. So I do that. I mean, I constantly just loved tying, and I would spend all my allowance money on materials, and then as I got older and realized what a job was, I got more and more stuff. But I was that one kid where I would go fishing after school every day. I went to Peninsula High School in Purdy, Washington, which is outside Gig Harbor. You know where this is at. Mm-hmm. Across the street was my favorite beach on Puget Sound. I caught tons of sea run cutthroat. For those that don't know what that is an anadromous cutthroat trout that lives its majority of its life in the saltwater. They're very estuarial, and they will venture out into open ocean a little bit, but most of the fish will stay within Puget Sound, British Columbia area. Their range is literally just northern California to southern Alaska. They will sit in estuaries, feed on everything from shrimp, sculpins, herring, sand lances, euphausids, amphipods, salmon smolts that come out. Like when the chum smolt migration happens, it's fun. You're throwing poppers on the shoreline in little groups, and you're fishing for these 16-inch fish in like a foot of water. And you're watching the backs come out of the water smashing small little bait balls, and it's just a hoot.
That's cool.
Of course, I'd get salmon and stuff out there too. My first steelhead I ever caught is in the saltwater fishing for cutthroat. Yeah,
that's cool,
that was a kick in a 28-inch steelhead on a 6-weight.
That's awesome.
So I grew up doing that, and that was my thing I loved to do, to the point, I mean, when we had the kid fairs where you could come and sell the things that you like to make, I would sell flies. I had a principal that fly fished, he'd come and buy them, and I had teachers that fly fished, and so I hung out with my teachers more than I hung out with my fellow students.
They start putting in orders?
Dude, how do you think I got through high school? Like bribing my teachers with flies, you know.
I think that paper's going to be an A for like...
Yeah, you're like, here's a couple Alaska salmon flies, and now your husband's going up. Can that be an A instead of a B minus? I'm just saying.
That's cool.
And then I got out of high school, and I started commercially tying when I graduated. I did that for probably solid 7 or 8 years, to the point where my wrists hate me. It was probably 20,000 flies a year.
Yeah, I bet.
And it was fun, and then it wasn't. Mm-hmm. Then I got into this side of the industry, kind of tapered down on the commercial tying a lot. Now I'm doing it really seldomly, and now it's just materials and tackle and having fun behind the scenes of a fly shop. And it's kind of fun when you can walk into a shop and go, I know where that came from.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, my dad would take me everywhere to go fishing. We went to Montana. It was actually cool. I've got a photo of a side-by-side photo of when I was 16, when he took me to fish Montana for the first time on the Clark Fork outside St. Regis. I've got a 24-inch West Slope cutthroat. One of the biggest cutthroat I've ever hooked.
That's huge.
I've only gotten one West Slope that was bigger. The other photo next to it is literally a mile down the road on the same day 10 years later.
Cool, man.
I went back in 2016, fished it with a friend, and it was a run about a mile up, hooked another 24-inch cutthroat, and...
Well, I mean, one that size is basically a fish of a lifetime.
Exactly. It's a fish of a lifetime, but to get two on the same day 10 years later is just it's just weird.
That's cool, man.
It's just weird. It's not cool, it's weird. It doesn't happen.
That's cool. Yeah, totally. So, you kind of mentioned when materials come in, they're not always processed. Mm-hmm. What type of stuff lands to you complete, and then what stuff isn't totally finished when you get it that you guys have a hand in producing?
So we don't put our name on everything that we sell. Mm-hmm. If it comes from a vendor, we want that vendor to be known that it comes from them. They're the ones that put the work into it. We're just selling it for them. A lot of them, we have the exclusivity rights for the United States or North America to sell their product. Meaning if any fly shop wants to sell it, they have to come to us. Which a lot of the industries kind of move in that direction. Perdigon Mania, one that we just got, we're releasing that one soon. It's really fine 1mm strips of film, tons of different colors and styles. And It makes some of the coolest little perdigones and body wrap and shellback material I've played with. It is a little on the brittle side, but they're perdigones. You're coating them with glue. So stuff like that we get in, we sell it as is. If it doesn't have a barcode on it, we will put barcodes on it because it's the United States. Everything needs a barcode for inventory. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be kind of anything that's like Hanek hooks. We barcode them. But when we get them, they're in their own little boxes with the Hanek logo on them. Don't be what they are. Same with Whiting Farms. Comes in a bag that has Whiting across top of it. Flash View, same way. What's another vendor that comes in that way? Thousand Civ. Everything that we sell from a vendor comes that way. Now, when you start to going into things that we ourselves produce, everything that we bring in comes in a bulk form. What I mean by bulk is, say, if you're at the shop and you buy a 1/4 ounce pack of marabou or a 1/8 ounce pack of guinea fowl, or you buy a bag of CDC, it all comes bulk, meaning we buy it by the pounds, and then we process it, meaning we have to clean it, we have to dye it, dry it, get it to a sellable form, and then we sit there and pack it. And most of it's by weight, some of it's by count. Like our hand select duck feathers, it's all by count.
Crazy.
Meaning we get a big bag of fluff and we sort through them. That's a bad one, that's a good one, that's a bad one, that's
What's
a good one.
What's the drop rate on that?
It depends. Like for example, our buggerboo. I'm going to hate myself for mentioning this one. Our buggerboo is not strung, it's hand selected. You get 24 feathers in a pack. Which means we sit there and we sort out a pound or two of feathers that we've dyed. And on that, it's about 50% drop.
Crazy.
So if you're wondering why stuff's expensive on hand-selected things, that's why.
Right. But that's why you pay for the premium.
That's why you pay for the premium stuff. It's all hand-selected. It's, you're going to get every feather that's going to be what you want. Same with our teal flank, our hen mallard, our mallard spays. Same way. You get 24 feathers, but we buy mallard by the pound, and we sit through every pound, and we pull every spay feather out of that pound, and that's a lot of feathers to go through.
Yeah, no kidding.
When we bring it in by 40 pounds at a time, it's my eyes hurt after a couple of days of it.
I bet.
But and the same thing goes with dubbing too. Like we buy our emergence Antron dubbings the same way. Squirrel, we buy the squirrels on skins and we shave them. We don't buy it pre-shaved. We shave the squirrels.
That's crazy.
So we bring in these dried, dirty squirrel. We wash them, and then we sit there and shave them up, and then we dye them and process it. It's a messy job, man.
Tell me you haven't given a squirrel a goatee just for fun.
No, I don't do that anymore. But we do that with, a lot of the furs we get, like beaver. Yeah, we buy tanned, plucked beaver pelts, and we shave them. That's how we get the dubbing that we do. We have really good beaver dubbing. Mm-hmm. It's really well known for quality, buoyancy, and we literally buy the pelts tanned, plucked, and sheared, and we sit there and I pay my baby brother to go to shave beavers and squirrels. Get your mind out of the gutter. But we sit there and we shave them and clean them and process it, and it just goes from there.
That's cool.
I was going to make a shaved beaver joke.
So another, along the lines of guttery things, why is it that jungle cock is so expensive and so rare?
You're getting our minds out of the gutter?
No, I'm going...
Oh, you're going
deeper. He's going back into it. The jungle cocks, which is, it's a chicken that comes from Asia. Now you know.
And it has really cool feathers.
Yeah, it's jungle fowl. There's about 4 different species. The gray jungle fowls, when we're talking about which is jungle cock, what that means is that's the rooster of the family. That's the male. They have, for those that don't know, they have black and white feathers with gold spots on the end of them. They're very beautiful. I've got a couple of them myself. You see them a lot when you're looking at Atlantic salmon style patterns, flat wings, big striper flies, that kind of thing, for more the traditional side of tying. Stuff like that, because it's an endangered species.
That's what it is. I didn't understand that it was endangered.
They're endangered. Even though it's a chicken, it's an endangered species. So when you get into the side of endangered species, you start dealing with a lot of import-export problems. It's an Asian species bird. Because of the way it is, you cannot legally import junglefowl. You can get it from an American source grown. Generally, it's going to come with paperwork. It's going to cost you about $200 to $300 for a mediocre grade. I mean, I've seen some that were grade ones that went for $500 or $600.
Crazy.
And it's the same way with a couple of different animals. Rhea is another one.
Yeah.
Rhea is a pain to get into the U.S. We don't even try. You're talking... So for those that don't know, Fish and Game and then the USDA take part in controlling of what animal products come in and out of the United States. That goes for food, that goes for feathers, pelts, whatever. So say if we have a shop in Canada that buys deer hair and pheasant and that kind of stuff, that's all hunted animal, they are required to get a wildlife permit, which means we do it for them. There's a fee to go with it, and we fill out the paperwork. We get the permit in a couple of days, and you have to do this for every single shipment that goes out and into the United States. I pay someone to literally do this.
That's wild, man.
That is part of her job. Is she handles all of the wildlife, all of the migratory bird permits, the USDA stuff, and it's different also to what country you're getting stuff from or what country you're shipping to. Some countries, like we have a distributor in Japan. We have to do a wildlife permit, and we have to get a health certificate from the USDA. So there's permits that go into everything. Black bear, you cannot export black bear without a CITES permit. Those are a pain. No one does it anymore.
A what permit?
A CITES permit.
So what does that entail? What's special about black bear that makes it so you have to have that?
I'm not 100% sure, but I think it has to do more with numbers than anything, and where it comes from. And there's some species you just have to do that. Peacock's another one. That's why peacock's kind of a pain when it comes to flies. You've got there's a few of them where it's just, polar bear. You can't hunt polar bears because they're endangered.
Sure.
So there's, if that kind of thing. So no one sells it. But there's specific animals and stuff when it comes to the endangered side of things and whatnot that can turn how things come in and out of the country. That's why jungle cock is so rare. It got overhunted because of fly tying specifically. Their meat, from what I know, is not the greatest for cooking, so people don't really use it. But fly tyers loved it so much they almost hunted the thing to extinction, and now you have all the tight regulations on everything that you have.
Yeah, because I can't even tell you how many times people come in and ask, "Do you have any kind of jungle fowl?"
Oh man, it's annoying.
I have the synthetic stuff. I have like the stickers. I have that.
Yeah, just to let people know, the stickers work just fine.
Yeah,
it doesn't look as good, but you can get multiple colors.
Yep. Yeah, but I always was curious about that, and I was curious, is it something that can be domesticated? Which it turns out like maybe it's not.
You can domesticate it. From what I understand, they're kind of a pairing bird.
Oh.
So they go in pairs. It's not like normal. From what I understand, they're not like normal chickens where you can have one rooster to 20 hens and get a whole bunch of eggs. Hungarian partridge are the same way. They're a pairing bird. So you've seen a decline in Hungarian partridge processing. That's because some of the harvesters that had them, the growers, they quit harvesting them for the meat and just went to straight hunting. They're real finicky. They're a pain in the butt to grow. They're very picky on temperatures and all kinds of weird things, and they just die really easy. So they're kind of a nuisance bird to most farmers. But hunters love them. They're very tasty.
And they're abundant around here.
They're abundant around here. Yeah. So we if you hunt them, we pay you for them. Same with turkeys.
Did not know that.
Yeah, no, we actually get guys that come in and they'll be on the road and they'll hit a turkey. And it's they'll bring it in like, here's $10, cool, and they go away, and then we sit there and deep-breast it and have lunch, and as long as the meat's still good, if it starts to rank, we just kind of throw it away. But if it's we've gotten some pretty good toms that way, and it's it's a salvage. Idaho is a salvage state, so you have the right to pick it up and use it, and
that's cool.
Yeah. Hello, Old Spiral podcast listeners. If you're like me and enjoy pulling out a bottle of wine while you're cooking dinner, during dinner, after dinner, or anytime the mood strikes you, then you should try the wine from Parejas Cellars. Parejas Cellars is a boutique Washington winery with a tasting room in downtown Clarkston located at 903 6th Street. Their goal is to make high-quality, affordable, and delicious wines from the unique grapes of Spain and southern France, all grown here in Washington State. They're currently offering huge discounts on their wine, starting at $60 a case for a delicious white Rhone blend. You can also mix and match a case of their Trace Rojas Red, House Red, Sisters of the Vine White Blend, and the White Rhone for $120 a case. That is 12 bottles of wine for $10 each. Parejas is also offering free home delivery, so there's no excuse not to support this local business. For more info, check out their Facebook, call 509-910-9844, send an email to mark@parejascellars.com, that's mark@PAREJAS sellers.com. Also, if you haven't yet, listen to our episode with owner Mark Weisling to see how much knowledge and passion this guy has for good wine. Curbside and delivery, Thursday through Saturday from 1 to 5. Well, all of it from getting the materials, but once you have it all, sorting it, dyeing it, cleaning it, and even tying it sounds just like a very intensive process. And I've been up to North 40 with Drew and hung out with him for a minute while he's tying flies. And I mean, it looks like it takes him a while. Is what Drew's doing at the fly shop, kind of in his spare time or at home, like the same tying process that you guys are doing? You just have more people doing it and they're really good and fast at it?
We don't tie flies.
Oh,
well,
okay.
we do in our spare time and on our own stuff, but we don't sell flies.
Oh, you
They're
have all the
just producing
materials.
The materials.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
we just do the
grab off the
material.
shelf and make it. Yeah.
So, like Drew ties flies on his own, so he's buying our product to tie flies. That's how we work. We don't manufacture or sell flies. We just sell the material.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I was gonna say with what'd you say, 13 people or something?
It's 12
people.
Yep.
Yeah, that would. I don't know how you'd get enough. to actually tie them.
Most flies that you're seeing out of a bin at a fly shop are coming from Asia and Africa.
Oh, really?
Yep. The mass majority of it. You do have shops that do tie their specialized patterns. They'll pay their guys to tie them of so much a dozen. Like when I was commercially tying, I was tying a lot of sea run cutthroat flies, a lot of salmon stuff. Real specialized stuff to Puget Sound that you can't get from a factory, because the factory looks at it and goes, we can't tie enough of these to make it worth it. Why would we want to tie those when we can tie 1,000 stimulators or prince nymphs or elk hair caddis and go that route? Why would I want to have someone tie 60 dozen of a sea run booger or a shrimp, or when they're just for Puget Sound, because the colors and the species of them are very different than, say, your guy is going to the Bahamas or Christmas Island or Hawaii or the Caribbean of some kind, where people are going on these trips and they don't care about the price of a fly.
Well, and even at that point, I mean, the flies that you might swing for sea run cutthroat in the Sound might be different from the flies that they're going to swing for sea run cutthroat in Oregon. And it might be super specific to that. I mean,
Kinda.
maybe not to that extreme, but it could be that extreme in some cases, like geographically, like you're talking about.
Geographically, yeah. I mean, your bait fish might be a little different in shades depending on the gravel that you're around, and that's going to be true to any river or body of water you fish. Everybody's got flies and stuff to specific rivers, to lakes, to stuff that this river's got Daphne in it, so I've got a bunch of blobs that are Daphne or red and pink. This river's got a bunch of scuds, so I've got a bunch of sow bugs and scud patterns that are in browns, olives, pinks, and oranges. And like we fish these in this lake, we fish those in that lake. And then you got the river that's chock full of stoneflies and mayflies and elk hair caddis, and that's all you want to fish. You can fish a tan and a black elk hair all year long and catch tons of fish. And then you go to the lake and it's all scuds. It's the snow. It's like that everywhere.
Right. Right, definitely. And I mean, that's what I think is a huge part of the fun with not only fly fishing, but fly tying, because it kind of is that next level of craftsmanship and kind of owning like the ability to know when and where I'm going to use this, or when I use this fly, when I use this pattern, I get results. And so like starting to learn that, get that down. And that's what makes fly tying super fun to me. And you know, like you said, when you're tying and you tie something specifically for maybe a season or a place, and you catch a fish on a fly that you tied yourself, it just makes you feel like a badass.
Yeah, it's a total different experience when you hook a fish on a fly that you've tied.
Totally.
And to get to that point, it's the reason you see a lot of different colors and stuff in the products that we do is that same reason. Different regions have different colors. Like you have sulfur. Okay, we have a sulfur and we have a sulfur orange. One's more yellowish, one's more orangish. Depends on what kind of sulfur you have. You get a sulfur done in the Catskills, and it's, you know, and they have their own style of color. And then you head 50 miles south and they've got their own kind of sulfur. It's the same, you know, that's the same problem. So like what you're saying is you're getting used to it, of trying to figure out what they're hitting and getting your bugs right. The number one thing anybody can go do when their body's of water is take a seine net. Take a seine net. It's a little handheld net. You can kick up the bottom, scoop up some of the gravel and the weed and whatnot, get it in there, see what's in the water. You can also, like when I'm on the river, if I'm out, especially on new bodies of water, I won't even start fishing. I'll just start picking up rocks. Because you pick up a rock and you turn it over, you're going to find out exactly what's in the water within a couple of rocks. And the bugs you're going to find more often than others are what you're going to want to fish. Also, if you're getting into tying, we have every color you could think of to match anything on the planet, but the kicker is you need to get your material wet to see what it actually looks like. What people don't understand is when you're fishing a color, it darkens when it gets wet. So people they love to fish dark olive. Okay, I fish a lot more mediums and light olives because it's going to get darker. I do fish dark olive. Like I'll do a medium olive woolly bugger to get a nice olive tone, but I'll put a strip of dark olive marabou over the top of it to give that lateral top view, just like a bait fish would have. Now, the same thing goes with your dubbings, your hackles, all that stuff. When it gets wet, it darkens out.
Right. That's what I always think is funny about on our waters here when people say, well, purple's a great cutthroat color. Well, purple turns to like black when it's wet. It gets super dark.
It's really dark.
Yeah. So, I mean, at that point, black might work just as well as if you threw out a purple fly. It might be a little bit brighter, might catch their attention a little bit more, but it does change a lot in the water. It
does. And that's kind of on your visual spectrum too. Where I say it's always good to wet your materials to see what the color's going to look like when it's wet is, say for a damselfly, it's really light. You fish a medium olive thinking you're actually going to fish a really dark fly. You want to go to a really light olive to match that tone. The only thing, like what you're saying, to go black, on that side of things from purple to black, purple still stays kind of purple. Humans have about 3 spectrums of UV that we see. Fish have about 12 to 15. So they're going to catch up on more colors. But again, when you have fish that are being picky, you need to make sure that your colors are going to be more specific to what you're using versus, I'm going to go fish purple all day long. Purple's a great color. It's the same spectrum as olive. A fantastic color. I've got purple hazes in my box. I've got purple hoppers. I've got pink hoppers.
Sure.
Colors.
Of course.
Great color.
Yeah.
I'm not dogging purple.
Yeah.
But it's just that factor of, fish see more, but we also need to make the fact that you can fish a green drake, fish your green drakes, but make sure your colors are going to be matching what you're doing by getting them wet.
Totally.
Do you have any ties or flies that are your favorite to tie, or ones that maybe were more challenging that you really like doing now?
As a someone that's spent a lot of time commercially tying, I hate complicated flies. Just on the side of, I've tied a lot of complicated stuff for people on special orders, and then they complain about, that you're charging too much. I'm like, it's a custom fly, dude. Come on.
Right.
It also comes down to, like, for myself, man, if it depends on the mood I'm in,
Okay.
like, will determine what fly I want to tie. I love, now, as far as fishing, the flies I'll tie to go fishing. I love Euro nymphs. They're fast. They're easy.
They get down quick.
They get down quick. I love Frenchies. I love Perdigons. I love tying soft tackles.
What about more of like just an artistic standpoint?
Artistic standpoint, I go straight to steelhead flies.
Yeah.
Every time.
You get in the Atlantic thing?
I do. I do some of it, but I prefer to tie stuff more so that I can fish. I've done the whole married wing, super elaborate married fly. I had one fly, it took me 14 hours to tie it.
Ooh.
It had 3 married wings on it, 2 feathers of blue-eared pheasant. I think it was 3 pairs of jungle cock, and I put it in a display box, and a guy went, "I'll give you $400 for it." And I went, "Here you go." I was 22. I was like, $400? That's a new rod, man.
Yeah.
I've done some of that Atlantic salmon stuff. It's really fun. It's a great way to challenge yourself and your skill, but you have to be patient. If you're not patient, if you're not a patient person, don't do it.
Go look one of those up if you've never seen one. Go see what they look like, and I'll show you some after this, Brian.
If you've never
Heck with that, I'm going to look it up right now.
If you've never seen Atlantic salmon flies, they're very decorative. I've seen some that have wings that have 30 different sections in one wing.
Those are cool.
They are very fun to tie, very time-taking. But for my personal stuff, what I love to tie is classic steelhead stuff. I love putting modern twists on classic steelhead stuff. My favorite steelhead fly to tie is a Lady Caroline. But I do a twist on it. The original pattern is like a maroon body with a natural blue-eared pheasant, which is like a really nice dark dun color, and a bronze mallard wing on top. I tie mine with a silver tinsel green butt with a purple body, and I put a blue feather into it, and then I top it off with a purple collar, and I'm actually using ringneck pheasant because blue-eared's really hard to get. Ringneck's a fantastic substitute for it. I'll either use that or I'll use our spay hackle, which is actually a burnt goose flank feather. Look, it's stiffer. It's not as long, but it's nice and stiff, and it keeps really good shape. A lot of times I'll actually tie them together. I'll tie a goose, the spay hackle goose, burnt goose that we do, and then I'll put ringneck in front of it so that I have that blue coming through, and then I have that purple going over, and then I put a couple feathers up top to give it a nice wing. It's one of my go-to steelhead patterns.
Cool.
But classic stuff's always fun. And then when it comes to bugs, I love tying stoneflies. And then there's pike flies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then there's I'm going to throw $20 on a hook and call it a fly,
Well, and I mean, it's fun to tie big stuff. I mean, a lot of the time with nymphs, I mean, I'll tie a lot of nymphs, but a lot of dries I end up just buying. And then streamers I love to tie myself just because they're fun.
Yeah, and the thing with bug patterns like dries and nymphs, for those that don't know, a nymph is is when an insect is subsurface. It's aquatic insect like a mayfly, stonefly, caddis, crane fly, mosquitoes, midges. It's bugs that live in the water, and then they come up to the surface, and then they hatch, or they crawl out like a stonefly, and then they hatch off, and then they become an adult insect. Those are what we call dry flies, because we're fishing them on the surface of the water, so they're considered to be dry.
Right, and that's the hatch that you can visibly see when it's buzzing around when you get out of your pickup and you're heading down to the stream.
Exactly. So dries and nymphs, I mean, you can fill a box of dries and nymphs all you want. It's the same patterns you're going to tie all the time, and you just know it because they're the go-tos, and they get boring after a while.
Well, how fast can you knock one of those out?
Depends on the fly.
All right.
If you give me tell me I need to do a couple, some Frenchies, I tie on a Norvise. It's a free spin bearing system. I can crank about 3 or 4 dozen out in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Limited materials, just really quick. Fun. Those are kind
tail,
of fun
rib,
sometimes too.
body, wrap rib, dubbing, done. That's it.
Yep.
And they're really wicked effective.
Effective. We actually have Perdigon coming up in our fly tying class at North 40.
Nice.
I think we're doing zebra midge next, and then Perdigon after that. But kind of on that note, like what does inspire you to tie at this point? You said you've done a lot of commercial tying. Is it kind of just like is it sometimes a new material or like something you've seen or something, or is it just to fill the box?
Well, it's kind of a combination of things. For me, I need to fill my fly box. And now that I own the business, that does not happen. 10, 12-hour days will bite you in the butt when it comes to fly tying. Mm-hmm. And then you spend the night before going, I need like 3 of these so I can get through the day. So there's times I got to fill the fly box. It's kind of, and then it's I've got, because I got to do promotion, so I have to play with new product. So I have to. It's not an option. I have to play with every single thing that's in that building.
Yep.
You do not want to see my fly tying room. It is about the size of this room, and it is tubs of just material.
Oh man, I can't even imagine. Yeah,
bad.
I bet.
One of the things I do is I will go through my stuff and go, I have way too much crap in here. I need to zone down, and I will randomly send stuff to my friends. Mm-hmm. That if they have kids they're learning how to tie flies, or they just tie a lot, I'm like, here's a bunch of random stuff. Here you go. Mm-hmm. Then I've got the last guy I did it to. It was like the second box I sent to him, and he's just kind of like, you ass. I'm like, my wife is so mad at me. I'm like, oh, dude. I mean, I had to get rid of some stuff. So there's the promotional side of things. Got to play with it so you know how to sell it. It's kind of like that way with industry. You got to know how to use it so that you can sell it.
Sure.
The other side of it, and the main reason I love to tie, is very therapeutic. Mm-hmm. And I think with the whole thing we dealt with in 2020, why a lot of people got into it is because it is a therapy. I know a couple of therapists that actually use it to combat depression, to use it as an anxiety relief. Before
Sometimes
putting people on medication.
Inducing.
It can be, but if you do it right, it's actually pretty relaxing.
Totally.
Usually for me, it's I pop open a beer, or I pour myself 1 shot of good whiskey. I do never do a double again. I had one night I had a couple of shots of whiskey while I was tying, and that's where I ended up with that bass hook in my foot, and it was a fully tied fly too. And I'm like, oh great.
My luck would be my dogs.
Yeah, kind of the feeling.
Oh, no.
I used to have a dog we couldn't take fishing anymore because he would run up behind us and grab the lures.
Ooh.
Yeah, he'd try to grab the bobber and then grab the bait when I was a kid, and then my dad threw a Rapala once, and the dog got a face full of treble hooks because he crammed like,
Poor buddy.
Pretty much, yeah. No more fishing for that dog. But no, it's very therapeutic.
Yeah,
if it's something that people have never tried,
zone
exactly. Pandora gets going, or I'm watching a podcast on YouTube or something, and I just go to town.
Yep, for sure. Just a couple more things here that I'm interested in, and then maybe Brian, you got some stuff.
I've got 1,000 more questions.
That's all right. I've got as many answers as I can give.
We've touched on it kind of a couple times now. But I'm really interested in, like, of course, being a purveyor of fly tying stuff and all that. I'm really interested in the trends. So right now, I think Euro nymphing and trout spay are probably the biggest trends in fly fishing that there is. And like we said, we've touched on Euro nymphing quite a bit. How much of that is starting to come into your business?
Well, so Nature's Spirit is kind of based in that realm. Granted, we're really well known for our natural products. That's what built the name of Nature's Spirit. The distribution side, where we've brought in products for other companies, a lot of the stuff that we focus in is in the Euro nymph style of fishing. For example, Hannock.
And for the folks at home, what is Euro nymphing really quick? We talked about nymphing.
So for those that don't know what Euro nymphing is,
me.
Everybody that fishes kind of knows what a drop shot rig is. It's pretty much the exact same thing, except instead of using a 9-foot leader, you're using a 30-foot leader, depending on if you're going to go more Czech old school with the 9-foot, or you're going to go more French Spanish style and you're going to use a 30-foot leader. Generally, my rig is 25 feet of 17-pound fluorocarbon to my cider, which is about 5 feet. And then I go to a micro ring. Well, actually, I use a barrel swivel. So if I have a fish that barrel rolls on me, it doesn't twist up my leader. I recommend people do this.
Yep.
Go to a
They're
barrel.
cool for streamers too.
They're great for streamers because your fly will spin on you, and it keeps your line, keeps your leader from getting twisted.
Mm-hmm.
Dry fly fishing, it's not going to happen.
It's going to slap the water too.
You're going to slap the water, you're going to sink your bug, and you're just going to have to deal with your knotted leader. That's why I don't dry fly fish that much. Unless it's, on a 2-aught and got a big deer head on it for pike and bass. But the Euro nymphing is, the base of it is you're taking a heavy bug. It's got usually a really heavy bead, and you are bouncing that on the bottom of the river column. And then above that, or off the tail end of it, depending on how you're fishing, you have a secondary fly where you either have an emerger, a San Juan worm, a soft tackle, and you're fishing that mid column, so you're hitting two different parts of the water. Fly Fish Food put out a really good video how they were actually using a very heavy nymph to help them bounce a dry fly caddis on the surface like it was a dabbing caddis. Mm-hmm. What caddis do when the females come back to lay their eggs, they actually fly up and they dive their abdomen into the water to deposit their eggs. They were showing a trick on that. It's actually a really cool way to use it. But the general rule is you're going to have a heavy bug that's going to go on the bottom. You have either another weighted bug or one that's not in the mid column, where you're going to take another heavy fly off the base of that one, and you're literally dredging every hole you can find that's deep or shallow, depending on what kind of water you have. But the design of it, you're going to get through that water faster, and you're going to get a longer nymphing drift. I do it here on the Lochs on the Selway and the Clearwater. It is deadly.
Especially on the Lochs, where you can really control the speed of your drift on such a fast piece of water.
You've got, because for those that don't know, you have tailwatery fisheries. You don't have to have as heavy a bug. Then you've got freestone water. Freestone is fast-moving water that's got a lot of boulders, a lot of pocket water. You need to get your fly down and around boulders to find fish. That's the Lochsaw. Euro nymphing up there is insanely effective.
Yep.
Because you're going to get your fly down, and some of those holes are 6 to 8, 15 feet deep. Mm-hmm. And you got to get that fly down through that water to get that front part of that riff, so you can get through that drift and just fish that whole thing. And that's where Euro nymphing is becoming really popular, because people can fish a lot of the smaller creeks, even some of the bigger water, and fish those riffles and those deep pockets more effectively, because they can get their fly deeper in the column faster than say using a rig that you've got your indicator or your bobber or your whatever you want to call it. It's 5 feet above your nymph. You're only fishing 5 feet deep. You could be fishing 8 feet of water. The fish are at 7 feet. Your fly's at 5 feet. They don't even see it and they don't care.
Totally.
You put a Euro rig on, and you're now allowing that fly to go all the way to the bottom. And like a drop shot rig, you're keeping your line tight so that you feel that take.
And you're also using a longer rod and a much lighter weighted rod. So you're using like a 2-weight, a 3-weight, 4-weight at most, 10-foot or an 11-foot rod, which again is going to increase that sensitivity that you feel all the way through your drift.
Exactly. And if the rod's built correctly, you can really feel the tip of that rod bounce up on everything.
Which brings us up to what you were talking about before I derailed you and started asking you about Euro nymphing specifics. You're talking about Hannock.
Yes. So one of our main distributors that we deal with is Hannock. They are known for super high quality hooks, very much so through the competition world. But we also distribute for Phasna, which are also very good hooks. They're more on the stout side. Similar models, but they're on a stouter side. So if you like fishing stout hooks, Phasna's probably your thing. I fish the Hannocks, I fish a couple of the Phasnas, and then we have another company called Dohiku. Dohikus are great hooks. They're very underrated hooks. They're not as expensive. They're not in nicer packaging. They're in bags instead of containers. But man, their jig hooks go down to a 22. Mm-hmm. and you put a 22 midge pattern in some of those waters I fished in Montana, like the Missouri, it's deadly. Now, with Hannock specifically, they also do rods, reels, lines, and stuff, and we do distribute their rods, reels, and lines. I fish all of my Euro rods are Hannocks, of course, because we're their distributor. They're very easy for me to come by, and they're very nice rods.
Yeah, and I haven't had much experience with their rods and reels and lines side of thing. It's just been hooks that I've bought as a customer.
So their lower end rod, which is their wave rod, it retails, our MSRP on it's like $220 for their rod. It's a 10-foot 3-weight, 10-foot 4-weight, very approachable. And I've fished them, and they're very good rods. They're sensitive. They work really well. We've used them in lakes. We've used them in the river. My brother has one and uses it. It's a great rod. And then they have some mid-grade rods, and they've got the Superb XP, which retails at $850, and it's a really nice rod, very light. I recommend getting it if you got the money to do so. I truly do, But even for myself, I fish the Czech Nymph X. It is actually their midline rod, retails for $350. It's a fantastic rod.
Nice.
And their reels that we get from them, the highest, most expensive reel that retails like $240.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean at that point,
and
it's just you could have whatever reel.
Yeah, I mean it's Euro nymphing. You can put a $40 reel on it. It doesn't care. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
You're using it to literally hold the line. You're not stripping line off and doing these elaborate casts. You're literally flipping it over into the hole, running it through the run, picking it up and flipping it right back to the top.
Yep.
That's Euro nymphing. You don't need to have the most elaborate reel on the planet. Now, I will say that it's good to have a reel that has a decent drag. That's where I will draw the line on it is if it has a good drag, I don't care what it costs. If it's a $100 reel, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure that you can handle a fish.
Right. Especially without blowing it up or free spooling you or whatever.
And I've seen some free spooled reels on some reels that just I spent $500, drag seized up, free spooled, it's over.
Yep.
I've got $100 reels at home I've never had a problem with.
Totally. 100%. Well, just in closing here, I've got a couple more questions for you. You mentioned some of those events that you do. You want to go ahead and plug those again, the Beer 30 you were talking about?
Yeah, so I live in Kamiah. For people who don't know where it is, it's in the middle of nowhere. If you go along Highway 12 up the Clearwater River, you literally drive through Kamiah. It's the last actual town that you drive through before you go over Lolo Pass. It's got a grocery store, small town strip. It's, maybe 2,000 people at max. It's a small town. I love it. We have a place called Clearwater Brewery Taproom, or Beer 30 Taproom. And the owner is really cool. Former sheriff. It's all microbrews. Revolving tabs. And or revolving taps, not tabs, but, hey. We host, every other Tuesday, we host a fly tying event down there. It's literally just, hey, we're going to go down, have a good time, tie some flies, have a couple beers. If people want to get into it, they're more than welcome to just stop by and watch, bring a vise. They've got questions, we'll show them. It's pretty much like if you want a free fly tying class, just come and hang out.
Cool.
On the social media side of things, we do a live on the fly event. It's live stream on our Instagram, which is Nature Spirit Fly Tying. Same with our YouTube channel. And it's kind of one of those things. It's kind of what I use for promotion to show off some new stuff or show a technique or new tools. And most of it's material driven. So we'll do stuff like, I'm going to tie a pike fly. I'm going to use it as Icelandic sheep. Or I'm going to show a technique. I did a video strictly on dubbing loops and how people don't utilize them to the full capacity. For example, a lot of people like to use dubbing loops for dubbing and composite loops. Pretty much all you see. You can spin deer hair by putting it in a dubbing loop.
Yep.
People don't know that. You take a good gel spun thread, you can put your hair into it, give it a good spin, get it nice and tight, and stack that puppy just like you're stacking regular hair. I also do the same thing with bucktail. I'll put bucktail in a dubbing loop to get a stack shoulder. Works really, really well. So it's kind of things like that, or go over some patterns, or sometimes we'll get a question in a video and then we'll make that question the topic of the next Live on the Fly. Another thing that we did a couple times, I want to get back into it again, is we did a Fly of the Month challenge, which was pretty much we tie a pattern and we want to see your variations of that pattern.
Gotcha.
Started it in the first of the month, go through the whole month. I'm actually building a social media team, so I'm not doing it by myself anymore. When I turn on my phone and I get 300 notifications after not looking at it for 4 hours, I'm like, I need help. That's kind of some of the stuff that we do. And we have what we call our Premium Bug Club team. You can go to our website, see who that is. For those who know, Sven Diesel's one of them.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Sven Diesel's on our Bug Club. So is Raymond Collette, John and Katie DeMuth, Joe Jackson, a couple others. And you can follow them on Instagram, and they're constantly tying everything under the sun.
At the highest level.
Yeah, and they do some crazy stuff. Like John and Katie, some of their bugs are absolutely insanely, like, critically done. Like, to the max of perfection. Sven, he does some wicked, crazy, fun stuff. So does Raymond. Raymond's like a good mix, does a lot of trout stuff. Sven does all over the place. That man ties everything I have ever seen, and I've seen some weird stuff come off his vise.
Yep. For sure.
So those are kind of some of the things you can follow and see. On the tying thing, I mean, man, if you're coming through Idaho, give the tap room a call and see if we're doing a tying night that week. And if you're there when we're there, dude, stop in. Just stop in, say hi.
Cool. And what are all of your socials? So you said Instagram.
So we do Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. It's all under Nature Spirit Fly Tying. And it's pretty, throw us a like, throw us a follow. We're trying to become more active on it. We haven't been so much through December and January just because we have been so swamped.
I'm sure.
Finding time to post stuff has been like, okay, cool. The post I'm putting up tomorrow is my baby brother Sage, wrapping zonker strips, which it's strips of rabbit into piles, and he is just absolutely covered in rabbit fur, in chartreuse rabbit fur. So
yeah, totally cool. And then I just got like a little rapid fire question around here. Like, what are two or a couple pieces of etiquette that you'd recommend to somebody that's new fly fishing that approaches the stream for the first time?
If you approach the stream for the first time, number one, pack it in, pack it out. I don't care. I am so sick of seeing people go in, crack a couple beers, leave their bait containers, leave their beer bottles and beer cans and food wrappers, and tip it and that kind of stuff. I mean, it's not just the littering side of things, but I mean, like, I'm an environmentalist on a point of things. I'm also a realist on it, but when it comes to being the environmentalist side, is, man, the world would be a lot cleaner if we just picked up after ourselves.
Totally.
Just saying. Just pick up your crap.
Yep.
And in my bag, I don't have a tiny bag. I make sure I got a bigger bag for that reason. So that if I pack it in, I pack it out. I also, if I see some trash laying around, I'll pack that out too. Another one is if you are on the water or you're approaching the water and you see a guy fishing it, don't low haul him.
100%.
Don't low haul a guy or gal.
100%.
I mean, don't do it.
Or at the very least say, hey, do you mind if I fish here?
Asking would be perfect. You ask. Some people don't care. Some people are like, yeah, I'm working my way down a run. Now, for example, if it's a guy, he's just fishing the top riffle, and you ask him, hey, if I go fish the bottom of the run, are you going to care? Sometimes they say no. Sometimes I'm going to go there next. If you see a guy swinging a fly, go at the top and follow him down because he's working his way down the run.
Yep.
Low holing is just not. It's not cool. It creates a lot of arguments because it's like someone cutting you off on the highway. You get angry every time.
You heard it here, folks. If you low hole, you're an a-hole.
Pretty much.
Let's see. So we talked about kind of some flies that you like to tie. Do you have a specific material that's kind of your favorite, or something right now that you're obsessed with?
Not really. I love tying with a lot of different things. I mean, I've got some leech blends I personally make at home. We're working on doing a production style of that. But it's, man, no, not really. I don't have a real favorite of things. It's more so I just like to tie with everything.
Cool.
There's some materials I don't like to tie with. Generally, it's going to be yarn.
Mm-hmm.
I hate tying with yarn.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I don't like using chenille.
Yep.
Chenille's great for quick bugs. I don't like tying with it. I much prefer dubbing. Doing dubbing bodies over chenille.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're going to get into like long fiber stuff like the F&F's, Fritz jellies and that kind of thing, or Estaz or cactus chenille, I use that all the time because it's got a different purpose. But just regular base rayon chenille, I don't like tying with it.
Yeah, it is pretty bland, pretty boring, and just not that fun. Well, cool. I think that's what I got. You got anything else, Brian?
I do.
Let's hear it, buddy. Here we go.
No, so you work with companies all over across the U.S. You're getting materials and around the world. Like, do you ever go out to those places and visit and do some fly fishing in those areas? What are some of your favorite places that you've been fishing?
So in realisticness, I haven't been to a lot of places. Most of the fishing I've done has been Pacific Northwest. I've been to Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Oregon, Washington. That's pretty much about it. I would love to go to some of those places, but also on the side of it, a lot of the places are like, shh, we don't want you to know what we do here. It's okay. You can go fish the river. We'll let you through the front door, but we're not taking you back there. Mm-hmm. We're like, oh yeah, come in, check it out. And like, oh yeah, here's our kitchen, here's our hair room, here's our production. This is awesome. To my competitors, no.
Yeah. Do you have any bucket list places you'd like to go?
Ooh. I'm sure you got a lot.
Oh man, that's such a long list. If I was to pick top 5, we'll exclude the U.S. because in the U.S. I could go on about bodies of water for a day and a half.
Sure.
I will say right now, Alaska is not one of them. Everybody goes to Alaska. It looks fun. Looks dumb, stupid fishery. I'm used to catching salmon, steelhead, and it's just, yeah. The rainbow fishing would be fun, but I've done a lot of trout fishing. Now, Mongolia would be a different story. Taimen would be very, very fun.
Yep.
I would love to get giant trevally. Christmas Island's definitely going to be on that list. Mm-hmm. I would also love to go fish. This is going to be a different one. I'd love to go fish France and Spain for Wells catfish. Wells catfish are a very predatory fish. Very predatory species of catfish.
So are they going to hit real hard?
Oh, yeah, and they get up like 8 feet long. They get huge, man. They're like 200-300 pounds of just muscle.
Holy cow.
Yeah. If you've never seen a Wells catfish, look them up. There's videos of them like in the rivers in France, and they're literally like going and beaching themselves to grab ducks.
Holy cow.
I'm like, this is so cool. So yeah, I would love to go out there and do it because they
I don't know how you're going to fit a whole duck on the end of your rod, but
well, I got I've got some heavyweight rods, man. It's all right. That's another thing. I love doing voices at people too. It's quite entertaining. But no, you could take. I mean, I've hooked sharks. I've hooked tuna on a fly rod. They're so much fun. I mean, I would do albacore tuna trips. That was one of my bucket list things. I've checked that off and done it a few times. If you have not done it, grab a 12 weight, get some buddies, go do an albacore trip. It's so worth it. I would love to also get a sailfish on a fly rod. That's a bucket list one. Pretty much, most of mine are going to be tropical, but, I would love to hit France and Spain for Wells catfish. I'd also love to hit northern Italy and Bulgaria area. Or just kind of that southern region of, I think it's Bulgaria. Or that's South America, isn't it?
No, it's Bolivia.
No, that's right. That's the southern of the Czech Republic.
Bolivia
Bolivia. Bulgaria
Which I would love
is...
to go to.
Yeah, dude, Bolivia would be so much fun. Yeah, that northern Italy, southern Czech area, I would love, because that's kind of where you're in Finca treats, but I would love to hook a marble trout.
Yep.
Marble trout it's a bucket list species.
Coolest looking trout.
And then also because my saltwater background with sea run cutthroat, I'd love to go get a sea run brown in the salt, which would be Northwest Europe, archipelago area on the southern end.
Patagonia.
Yeah, go down to Patagonia.
Yep.
You can the Chile area for them and stuff. You're gonna get more rivers, but man, you're looking at $300 a day to be on someone's land.
Yep.
I'd rather go fish for them in the Netherlands and go do a also kind of like a history run on my family background, which is all Nordic, Viking, Swedish, Norwegian region, and go check all that out, and then of course go chase some brown trout and some northern pike.
So you've been to Wyoming, all those places, Montana. You grew up fishing on the west side of Washington. What do you like about fishing this area? And is this area kind of it hold? I'm sure it holds up. It's Idaho. It's fantastic.
It's Idaho, dude. Idaho
but I mean, so
nice.
What's some of your favorite parts about fishing around here?
Well, around here, everybody's going to have their favorite parts about their home waters. I now consider these my home waters because I live here. I've fished here for a long time, and I really love it here. West Slope cutthroat, probably by far one of my favorite fish to catch on a fly rod. They're very apt to come and hit a dry fly. They do get some decent size to them, and they're just fighters, man. They're tough fish. And northern Idaho is just ripe with them. You go to the Coeur d'Alene, the St. Joe, the Clearwater system, the Upper Salmon. It's all got West Slope cutthroat in it. So even western Montana too. Through the St. Regis area, going up through Missoula, all those rivers have cutthroat in them. And West Slope is just fun. I do love the diversity of fish here too in a freshwater system. You've got smallmouth bass. You do have rainbows because you have a steelhead population. Of course, you have steelhead. Cutthroat. You can also legally target bull trout in Idaho. So people that don't know that, you can legally target bull trout in Idaho. No extra permits. The Fish and Game actually encourages that you chase them as a game species. It's right on their website. And if you want to have some fun, I go out and I will fish nymphs all day, and when I see a bull trout turn on a cutthroat that I've hooked, I immediately put the nymph rod down, pick up the sev weight, and chuck an 8-inch piece of white fluff into the water and strip that thing like there's no tomorrow. I have hooked some big bulls in northern Idaho. My biggest bull trout is actually a sea run bull on the Hoe. I swung fishing for steelhead.
Yeah, and you can actually pick some up that way on the run too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Every once in a while. It's more rare these days than it used to be, but yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, and it's for those that don't know, bull trout is a species of char. We have what's called bull trout and Dolly Varden in the Northwest. Dolly Varden is more of a Washington thing. When you get into the northern end of Puget Sound, like into the Skagit region going into Canada, that is a North American char. Bull trout are more of an Asian style char that progressed over naturally through time. And they're all the way through the Columbia River system. They're everywhere. And they're a lot of fun. And how you're going to identify them more so as a Dolly Varden looks more like a trout. On the side of, if you look at the structure of a trout where the face is more rounded and the eyes are more on the side and stuff, that's a Dolly Varden. A bull trout is going to be much longer and snakier. Its head's a little more flattened. Its eyes are more up top because it sits on the bottom. It's a predatory fish. It will come up and eat everything from trout to birds to squirrels to mice. Yes, I've skated bulls on mice here. It's really fun.
They do it with browns too.
They do, man. I love fishing mice.
I wish we had more bulls. I wish we had double the amount of bulls that we do, because when you do find them, it makes your day.
The only downside to that is if we had more bulls, we would not have as many cutthroat.
That's true. That's true.
Well, thanks, Thomas, and everyone go check out Nature's Spirit. Google it.
Yeah,
website will pop up. Facebook, Instagram,
all the socials.
YouTube.
Yeah, you can check out Nature Spirit Fly Tying at all those places. Just a heads note, if you do tie or fish, you cannot purchase product from us.
You have to come to North 40.
You have to go to either North 40 here in Lewiston, or you got to go to your local fly shop. We actually have on our website, we have a page that's listed of our dealers. You can go there. You can contact your local shop or local North 40 shop and get product.
Mm-hmm. But you can get Nature Spirit apparel through your website. You can.
Oh, not through our website.
Through the website?
No, you cannot buy it from us, but you can go to our dealers and request it. We do have T-shirts.
There you go. Looking at them. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in. This was awesome.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Talk about fly fishing forever.
Yeah, and sorry for those that aren't introduced to fly fishing.
I'm not. It's a good learning experience.
It's something it's a lot of fun. The only thing I will say to people, if you're going to get into fly fishing and fly tying, be patient. Mm-hmm. You're not going to learn it overnight. I have dealt with a lot of people that try to push themselves like, I've got to know everything now. I'm like, dude, it took me 20 some years to get to the point where I am now. Just hold your horses. But it's very, very fun. It's a great, it's a good family hobby. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things where, man, if you like to go hiking or you like to go to backwater lakes and rivers and stuff, you can throw a fly rod in your pack with some flies and have a ball on your hiking trip.
Totally. Couldn't have said it better. Well, thanks for coming on, Thomas. Maybe someday we'll be able to have you back on at some point. And, it was awesome having you on. Appreciate it.
Heck yeah.
This episode of the show is brought to you by our Patreon subscribers. Thank you so much to all of you for supporting the show. If you would like to become a Patreon subscriber, head over to patreon.com/oldspiralpodcast. That's going to do it for this week, but the shows are not over. Get caught up on the backlog of episodes if you haven't already, and thanks for listening.